Some TV moments don't just shock us, they freeze us. They make us sit in silence, staring at the screen, unable to believe what just happened. These are the cold-blooded moves. The kind of choices are so ruthless, they change the whole ideology we already have. Take for instance, the Homelander's rooftop scene, so cruel, so cold, that you can't stop thinking about them long after the credits roll. It's the kind of scene that redefines the character in your eyes. The scene doesn't start with explosions or chaos, it starts with silence. A woman is standing on the edge of a rooftop. She's fragile, broken, and thinking about ending her life. And then he arrives, Homelander, America's greatest hero, or so the world believes. His landing alone is designed to comfort. This is the man people trust to save them from danger, to inspire hope in dark times. When you see Homelander in that moment, you expect salvation. That's what makes the next few minutes so disturbing. At first, he does exactly what a hero should. He talks to her with a soft voice. He tells her she matters. He plays the role of protector with perfection. The audience almost breathes a sigh of relief. For a second, it feels like this broken woman has been given a reason to step back from the ledge. This is where the scene hooks us, because deep down, we still want to believe there's some good inside him. Maybe, just maybe, the monster has a trace of humanity left. But Homelander isn't here to save, he's here to destroy. Now, it happens fast. A shift so small, yet so terrifying. His tone changes. His words harden. The softness is gone, replaced by command. Instead of pulling her back from the edge, he starts pushing her toward it. He doesn't shout or threaten, because he doesn't need to. His calmness is what makes it so chilling. He tells her directly, without hesitation, to do it. To step off the roof. To end it. However, the woman listens. That's the cruelest part. She listens because he is a Homelander. The cape, the flag, the name, it all carries weight. When someone like him tells you to do something, you believe it, and she does. She steps forward, falls, and Homelander watches. There's no attempt to save her, no last-second dash to catch her hand. He doesn't even flinch. He just stands there and lets gravity do the work. That silence is what shocked audiences. We were trained to expect the hero to act at the last possible second. Homelander flips that expectation and leaves us with nothing but dread. Meanwhile, the rooftop scene doesn't rely on gore or thrills. The horror comes from betrayal. Superheroes, by definition, are supposed to save lives. They're supposed to stand between people in the darkness. Homelander doesn't just fail to save, he chooses not to. He actively pushes someone into the darkness and watches it swallow her whole. The rooftop scene also matters because of what it reveals. For much of the series, Homelander wears a mask. To the public, he's the smiling savior. To his teammates, he's the ruthless leader. To himself, he's a god. But on that rooftop, there's no crowd to impress, no cameras, no enemies to intimidate. It's just him and one helpless woman. And that's when we see the real Homelander. A man who doesn't save because he doesn't want to. A man who takes joy in watching others suffer. The rooftop strips away the image and leaves us with the truth. Homelander's not a hero pretending to be a monster. He's a monster pretending to be a hero. This scene alone shows how a single choice, made in silence, can define a character forever. And when it comes to Breaking Bad, nothing screams cold-blooded like Gus Fring's long drawn-out revenge on Hector Salamanca. This wasn't just payback. This was one of the most chilling demonstrations of patience and cruelty ever put on TV. To understand why this revenge hits so hard, you have to know the history. Years before Breaking Bad, Gus and Hector were on the same side of the drug game in Mexico. Gus was ambitious, methodical, and building his empire. Hector, on the other hand, was impulsive, cruel, and violent. Their worlds clashed. The breaking point? Hector killed Max, Gus's closest friend and business partner, shooting him right in front of Gus. That moment burned a hole in Gus's soul. From that day on, Gus didn't just want Hector dead, he wanted him to suffer, and he did suffer. This is what separates Gus from almost every other character. Most villains would want quick revenge. Not Gus. He waited years. He waited until Hector lost his strength, his power, and his dignity. By the time Gus made his move, Hector was in a nursing home. No longer feared, no longer respected, stuck in a wheelchair, unable to speak except by ringing a little bell. For Gus, that weakness wasn't enough. Killing Hector then and there would have been too easy. He wanted Hector alive, trapped in his own body, fully aware of the humiliation. That's where the true cold-blooded nature of Gus's revenge shines through. It wasn't about taking a life, it was about breaking a man from the inside out. One of the most chilling details? Gus made it personal. He didn't just ignore Hector, he visited him, he stood over him, he looked him in the eyes and reminded him of everything he had lost. Every visit was psychological torture. Gus didn't have to lift a finger. Just being there was enough to twist the knife deeper. And the way he spoke to Hector was ice cold, like he was savoring every second of Hector's misery. The real masterstroke came later. Gus used Hector's hatred to his advantage. He made Hector sit and watch while the cartel that once respected him was dismantled piece by piece. Every ally was gone, every ounce of power stripped away, and Hector could do nothing. He couldn't speak, he couldn't fight, he could only watch. That's the scariest part of all. Gus didn't just want Hector dead, he wanted him powerless. He wanted him to know he had lost everything and could never get it back. We all know how the story ends. Hector eventually gets his moment of payback with the iconic bell and bomb explosion that takes both of them out. But what makes Gus's revenge legendary is everything that came before. By the time that final scene happens, Hector isn't just an old man in a wheelchair. He's a broken man, and that was Gus's doing. Gus engineered years of humiliation, turning one of the most feared cartel members into a shell of himself. He stretched out revenge like a slow burn, enjoying every second of it. When fans saw this play out, it wasn't just about the eventual explosion, it was about realizing how far Gus was willing to go to satisfy his grudge. This wasn't business, this wasn't a strategy, this was pure personal hate, carried out with patience. This made Gus Fring's revenge on Hector Salamanca one of the coldest moves in TV history, not because of the violence, but because of how it was carried out. However, no moment shocked audiences more than Daenerys Targaryen turning her dragon on King's Landing. What was supposed to be her victory march turned into one of the coldest and most ruthless choices in TV history. For 8 seasons, Daenerys built herself up as the breaker of chains. She freed slaves, she punished tyrants, she spoke about justice. Many fans saw her as the hero of the story, the one who would finally bring peace to Westeros. By the time she faced Cersei in King's Landing, the city was beaten. The Lannister army had surrendered. The bells rang, signaling the end of the fight. The battle was over. Daenerys had already won, and that's what made what came next so shocking. As the bells rang, Daenerys sat on Drogon high above the city. She could have flown straight to the Red Keep, ended Cersei, and taken the throne with little more blood spilled. That would have been the move of a conqueror who also showed mercy, but she didn't. Instead, she stared at the city below, the streets, the families, the people who weren't fighting anymore, and then something inside her broke. Her face hardened, her jaw clenched, and without a word, she gave Drogon the signal. Flames poured down on King's Landing, not on the soldiers, not on the castle, but on the civilians. Women, children, elderly, it didn't matter. The fire spread street by street, leaving nothing but ashes. This wasn't quick. The scene dragged on, forcing viewers to sit in silence as the destruction unfolded. Every shot showed another part of the city consumed. Mothers running with children, innocent people screaming. The camera didn't flinch, and neither did Daenerys. From the sky, she looked almost calm, determined, like this wasn't rage, it was a choice. A deliberate decision to burn the city even after surrender. That's what made it cold-blooded. It wasn't the heat of battle, it wasn't self-defense. It was the execution of an entire city because she wanted it gone. Fans had always known Daenerys had a ruthless side. She had burned her enemies before, but usually with reason. Slavers, traitors, soldiers who refused to bend the knee. But this was different. This was no longer justice. It wasn't even war. It was mass destruction. And because the show had spent years building her as a liberator, the betrayal stung even more. People who once cheered for her were suddenly horrified by her. The internet exploded. Reactions ranged from shock to outright anger. Some people felt it was too fast, others felt it was inevitable. But no one was silent. That's the mark of a moment that shocks on a massive scale. By the time the fire stopped, King's Landing was gone. Thousands of lives lost. Ash filled the air. The Iron Throne, the object of her possession, now sat in ruins built on bodies. What was supposed to be her crowning moment turned her into the very tyrant she claimed to despise. For viewers, this wasn't just another twist, it was a total flip of perspective. The woman many rooted for was now the greatest threat. What makes this move stand out is the timing. She didn't attack in desperation. She didn't strike because she had no choice. She struck after she had already won. That's why it landed so hard. Mercy was in her hands, and she threw it away. That deliberate act, burning innocence when victory was already secured, was the definition of cold-blooded. While everyone thought they were watching a hero's triumph, it was the birth of a tyrant. That contrast is why the moment sticks, and why it keeps resurfacing in most shocking lists. She could have ended the war clean. She could have been the savior people believed in. Instead, she made the coldest choice possible, turning her dragon on innocence and proving that even the breaker of chains could become a destroyer. But Daenerys wasn't the only character to pull the coldest move that shocked everyone. When it comes to animated TV, nothing hits harder than Omni-Man's train scene in Invincible. This wasn't just violence, this was cruelty with purpose. A father teaching his son a lesson in the coldest way imaginable. From the start of Invincible, Mark Grayson believes his father, Omni-Man, the greatest hero on Earth. Stronger than Superman, untouchable in every fight, the man everyone looks up to. But the truth comes crashing down. Omni-Man isn't a hero. He's a soldier from the Viltrumite Empire, sent to conquer Earth, not protect it. When Mark refuses to join him, the fight isn't just about power, it's about ideology. A son is standing against his father, and then comes the train. Mark tries to stop his dad, to stand his ground, but Omni-Man isn't interested in fighting fair. He wants to prove a point. He grabs his son by the back of the head, holds him in front of a speeding train, and doesn't move. The train smashes into them, but Omni-Man doesn't budge. Instead, Mark's body is forced through the train, colliding with every passenger inside. Car after car, body after body, Mark is dragged through the wreckage. People explode into blood and limbs, crushed instantly. Mark is helpless. He's not killing them by choice. He's being used as a weapon, turned into the instrument of mass slaughter by his own father. The violence is graphic, but that's not what makes it so disturbing. What makes it unforgettable is the cold logic behind it. Omni-Man isn't killing for survival. He isn't lashing out in rage. He's teaching. He wants Mark to see that humans are fragile, weak, and disposable. He wants to break his son's spirit by forcing him to feel every single death. And the worst part? He doesn't flinch. His face stays calm the entire time, as if this wasn't even worth emotion. Meanwhile, the train isn't just a prop. Omni-Man could have killed civilians in any other number of ways, but by using the train, he turns Mark into the direct cause of their deaths. It's a metaphor, and he's showing his son that trying to stop him, trying to resist, only leads to destruction. He's hammering in the idea that fighting for humanity is pointless because humanity is powerless. The scene forces Mark to confront the scale of Omni-Man's cruelty. It's not about the people on the train, it's about Mark's soul being broken. For Mark, the scars go beyond the physical. He isn't just beaten, he's traumatized. Forced to feel the blood of people on his hands, even though it wasn't his choice. That's a burden that sticks with him, and it sticks with viewers too. For Omni-Man, the scene reveals his true character. He's not a tragic figure or a misunderstood father. He's a conqueror who values domination over family, power over compassion. The train scene defines him in one brutal stroke. What makes these moments unforgettable isn't just the violence, it's the choice behind them. Homelander letting a woman fall from a rooftop. Gus dragged out his revenge on Hector for years. Daenerys burns King's Landing after she had already won. Omni-Man turning his own son into a weapon of mass destruction. These weren't accidents or desperate moves. They were deliberate decisions carried out without hesitation. That's what makes them cold-blooded. They don't just change the story, they change how we see the characters forever. The hero is revealed as a monster. The mastermind shows just how far we will go. The savior becomes the destroyer. The father turns into a nightmare. That's why audiences can't stop talking about these scenes. They shock, they disturb, and they stick with you. They remind us that the most terrifying moments on TV don't always come from battles or explosions. Sometimes they come from silence, from calm voices, from choices that strip away every illusion and reveal the monster beneath. These are the cold-blooded moves that shocked everyone, and that's why they will be remembered as some of the darkest, most haunting movie twists ever put on screen.